Hello, everyone. My name is Dane Parcel, and this is my submission for EDL 853 for Module 4, titled Special Education Interviews. So, as directed, I interviewed 3 separate people, all stakeholders in the field of special education. The first individual I interviewed was Teresa Childress. She is a second-year administrator in Liberal School District. Some of her previous experience includes work being in the classroom as a second grade and a sixth grade teacher. She then transitioned to be a professor at Oklahoma Panhandle State University and eventually came back to Liberal as an instructional coach and then eventually the administrative role. The special ed teacher I interviewed was Erica Arnold. She has 12 years experience in special education. She received her degree through Plattsburgh State University, which is in New York. Liberal really recruits outside of Kansas as far as New York to bring in incoming teachers. And although some of them do come and most of them leave after a year or two, Miss Arnold is definitely the going against the grain, as she's been here 12 years from New York. And she's also received her master's degree from Kansas State in curriculum and instruction. And then the paraeducator that I interviewed is Jennifer Wilson. She has actually been my para for 10 years and been a para for a total of 12 years, all at Sunflower. Something special about Miss Wilson is she is a great baker and she has an expertise in sugar cookie decorating. I haven't ever been able to try them because of the amount of sugar that they do partake in. However, they sure do look good. So the first question I asked each of the 3 individuals that I interviewed was basically to explain the child find procedures, identify any early identification measures that our district has, and screening practices, and just kind of their assumption about those things. And Ms. Childress presented me 3 separate screening methods. In Liberal, we have Russell Childhood Development and Bright Start Preschool. Both of those are early aged opportunities for students with special needs to go ahead and receive services. They actually have been placed together as a movement that our district did, so they are in the same building and so they are able to work well together in those aspects. We also offer kindergarten roundup and kindergarten testing throughout the year to also help identify students. Ms. Arnold presented the fact that our preschool goes through a SIT process. Once the students get through the SIT process, she identified that we do have an early diagnosis, but she wasn't for sure exactly the right protocols to identify students prior to becoming school aged, but she knew that we had those available. What she did mention a lot in detail was the district's SIT process. And so the student improvement team, or the SIT process, is a multi-tiered level support similar to MTSS that a lot of other schools do. Liberal provides tiers 1, 2, and 3 and identification of students in special ed after that with the appropriate data gathered. Ms. Wilson said she wasn't really for sure about the exact policies and procedures to diagnose children early. She did mention that if she does have concerns with students that she isn't familiar with already having an IEP while she's in the classroom, she does like to bring that to the attention of the regular education classroom teacher as well as the special education teacher, just so that they are aware and just to add another set of eyes on the student's progress. In regards to the role of special education, Ms. Childress identified that each case can provide challenging things. Each student can provide a challenging situation. So it really just depends on the case and the student. So for one student, the most challenging aspect may be the child's behaviors and trying to find the exact needs and services and resources to meet those student needs. While the next student, their most challenging thing might be the parent. And then another student may have the most challenging thing be the regular classroom teacher and their workings with them. Ms. Arnold mentioned that her most challenging aspect of being in special education is the fact that some teachers and even some parents just don't necessarily see the potential that some students have. They see them as a challenge, or they see them as somebody that might not be nonverbal, and so they just kind of put them to the wayside or don't want to put in much effort, and so she finds that challenging. And then Ms. Wilson mentioned that as a para, it's difficult to find out sometimes exactly what will make a child benefit from their teaching and her support, and how can she best support them academically and socially. The most rewarding thing, which is something I always like to make sure to have anyway, and although it was a required question, it is something that's important to have in special education, to always hold on to those good things. Ms. Children says that she does see success by both the students and the teachers and staff as being the most rewarding. She mentioned that she tries to come into a special education classroom at least 3 to 4 times a week, if not even every day, just to check in on students, especially those that might need some higher needs and some more love that others don't potentially have. Miss Arnold mentioned that her most rewarding aspect is just having the pride that the students have once they find success. And when they have success, then that translates over into her job and knowing that she has found something to help that child. And because every child needs to have some type of success, and so she likes to have that for them. And Ms. Wilson, she does a good job of building student relationships, so she feels like those bonds that she builds are probably the most rewarding, but she also likes to see those rewarding faces when they catch on to something. Advice for supervision of special education staff. So I'm going to kind of go backwards on this one, just so change things up. Ms. Wilson mentioned that as a para, she likes to just make sure that the advice that is given provides multiple strategies to teach students that have individual needs, and as many different strategies that they can throw at them, they're willing to try, and she just wants that to be considered as well. Ms. Arnold feels like we need to train our paras better. She mentioned that we have such a large staff at her school that there always seems to be students and paras that are absent, and so changes to schedules need to occur, and as well as incoming paras, new paras come into the school, and trying to train them in the best that they can is difficult. And so we need to be able to be aware of that as we supervise special ed staff. And then Ms. Childress mentioned that just as you would supervise any staff, you should set expectations and monitor their results. In regards to paras, she likes to allow the special education teachers to supervise them first, unless there comes a time when she needs to step over them to address a specific situation. And then she also mentioned that it's important that as you supervise staff, that you just make sure you adapt to schedules and don't be afraid to change them, even if you have to do it often. How do you work effectively with parents? Well, Ms. Childress mentioned that in her working with parents that she just tries to make herself available, being there to answer questions, help support them, communicate with them. Those are all things that are important to her, so she likes to be available for parents. Ms. Arnold tries to communicate with parents on a frequent basis. A lot of her students are of the younger age where a parent has to come pick them up. And so she's able to interact with them right then at the end of the school day. If that doesn't work, then she also uses phone calls or uses our planners that we have. She also uses the conferences and the IEP meetings as well. Unfortunately, she did say most times that the information she shares could be something bad, but she does like to make sure that the parents have the good things given to them as well. And then Miss Wilson said that she does work with parents only in the state of dropping off and picking up students. She doesn't really interact with the parents just because she doesn't want to communicate anything that she shouldn't communicate due to confidentiality reasons. Working with classroom teachers, Ms. Childress mentioned that as she works with regular classroom teachers, one of the things she likes to do is just to be there to support them, to provide them strategies, whether it be from previous teachers, instructional coaches, or her own experiences. She wants to make sure that the classroom teachers are supported. In regards to Ms. Arnold, she does say that she works with classroom teachers frequently in trying to get students to be included in the classroom. So she likes to work with the exact materials and the exact content and being able to accommodate and modify them as necessary using the same materials and concepts that the classroom teachers do. And then Miss Wilson says that she does do a lot of inclusion time with students, and most of the time she's in the classroom for small group time. So this classroom teachers usually allow her to work a center or rotate through a center. So she likes to be there for all students, but she is aware of what students she has to definitely keep an eye on for inclusion purposes. Some advice for a first-year teacher. Ms. Childress says that you just need to be open, be able to work with all different types of people, ask for help when you need it, and then make sure that you review each student carefully. Each student is a separate case and an individual situation, so you need to make sure that you understand each child before you make decisions. Ms. Arnold said that you need to just get to know your special education students, and that quite often their behaviors that are easily able to be dealt with if you understand that the needs of the child. And she also felt like the first year administrators, whether you're first year or not, you still need to hold all teachers accountable. And she mentioned an example where there was a student that did get some in-school suspension, and the administrator relied heavily on her to provide the instructional support in that class, in that suspension room. However, the classroom teacher was not always called upon to do the same. And so she likes to have that same accountability no matter what, because that student is still a regular education student as well. And Ms. Wilson said that her advice is to don't forget about special education pairs. A lot of times the building pairs or library pairs are easier to modify schedules with because they don't have to meet the exact services that a special education pair has, but they are still important. So it's good to always step in and communicate and interact with them and become good partnerships with them as well. The role of special education teacher and administrator. Ms. Childress mentioned, and actually all three of them mentioned, that it was all a team effort. We all need to work together in a collaborative effort. As a principal, Ms. Childress said you need to be active and present in IEP meetings and support the teachers. And then Ms. Arnold and Ms. Wilson both said if you work together and be on the same page, the students are going to have success. Characteristics that they seek in aspiring administrators. Ms. Childress said that she just likes to have people that want to put in the work to do what's best for kids. Ms. Arnold likes to have administration that will have her back and make sure that all the administration are working together and not letting one get by with something that others are not being able to. And Ms. Wilson said that she just wants somebody that's caring, knowledgeable, understanding, and reasonable, but somebody that's also supportive and understands that paraeducators are necessary to have in the classroom for student success. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from everybody else's interviews.